Hello my friends and welcome to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Thank you for joining me for review number 244. This one is another one of those 12-year-old Scottish single malts. We're still carrying on through the 12-year-old Scottish single malts, and it is the turn of Royal Lochnagar, another Diageo-owned Highland distillery. This one, basically, the marketing blurb here, being Diageo, is pretty much the royal appointment of George Victoria. It's somebody. Marketing blurb really is what it is. Does it count for much? Not in my book. It doesn't. So Diageo 40%, chill filtered, very clearly colour added to this one. It's quite a dark one, that. And so let's get in, shall we? Let's keep this simple. Let's not dwell on the blurb, etc. First and foremost, this is a nice nose. First and foremost, it is a nice nose. Loads of caramel, and I'm actually going to say even clove lead the way, with malty biscuit notes always there in the background. And it's back to, it reminds me of those reviews I did at the start of this series of 12-year-olds where there was a lot of space ciders being talked about. And as I said about a lot of them, do you know, it's very hard to fault something that's decent. And this is a decent nose. It's a solid nose. How can you say anything bad about it? Yes, it's 40%. Yes, it's chill filtered. Yes, there's clearly colour added to it. But it's still a nice nose. However, it's a very overly sweet, here I go again, overly sweet, thin, and I would say sweet and sour, yes, but very much leaning on the sweet end of things there. Thin palate, and that thin palate it's doing the same thing, as I said, pretty much with the Cardew 12-year-old, where all of that sweetness rushes to the middle of the palate, hangs around in there, and just, it would rot your teeth. It's a simple malt with, as I said, it's oversweet around the middle of the palate, and it doesn't tend to get anywhere else. It's sharp. Not just as there was a powdery sharpness or something on the Cardew 12, which really, as I said at the time, made my tongue want to escape my face. This, not just as bad, but neither is it great. It's a short finish. That sweetness is all just hanging around the middle of the palate. Nothing, there's no real event. As a matter of fact, the best way to describe this is Johnny Walker fodder. That's pretty much what this is. And it's not exciting as a single malt. As a matter of fact, I would go even further and say it's not even very interesting as a single malt. Oversweet in the middle of the palate. Nothing in the lead up to that. Nothing behind it. Thin. Flaccid. No. I'm not even going to add water to it, because if it's already that thin and a bit useless already, what's the point? Around the 35 to 40 pounds mark. It's, it's 12-year-old malt, I suppose. It's not that dear in the scheme of things. It's not offending me in the same way, and offending sounds maybe a bit strong, but it's certainly not offending my palate as much as that Cardew did. It's still a good nose. It is genuinely a nice rich nose. It's weird because I would have said there was actually some sort of sherry maturation involved in this. I couldn't find any record anywhere of sherry maturation being involved. It all seemed to be just ex-bourbon, which is why I made a comment about how dark the colour is on it. So it's weird that it just does have this real rich, big nose. It's a very good nose considering. But everything afterward is a letdown. So there, I'm not going to dwell. We'll just leave it at that. So, yeah, letdown. Nice nose, yes, and I would keep going back to that nose. It is actually genuinely a very nice nose. But such an incomplete whiskey. It's a term that I tend to use quite a bit. Complete whiskey, good nose, good palate, good finish. Finish forgotten about too many times in whiskey. Maybe a good nose, maybe a good palate. Finish, wasted. To me, you can still have a good whiskey that maybe just doesn't have the best finish. You can still have a good whiskey that is, at least if there's two parts of that, come in there. In this case, one good nose, it's not enough for me. It's not enough for me. So what would I recommend as an alternative? Highland, single malt. And I just decided that, and I literally pretty much opened my cabinet and went, you'll do. Which sounds a bit of a cop-out, but it was fairly, I just thought, right, Highland, Deanston, why not? And this was the one I set my hand to, the Virgin Oak. This is cheaper. This bottle is 46.3%. It's most likely a non-chill filtered. I would imagine it'll be on there somewhere. And maybe natural colour. I didn't have a 12-year-old to set my hand to. I'll probably pick the 12 instead, because the 12-year-old Deanston's around the same price as the Royal Lochnagar. Far superior. Far superior. So I know this is just me preaching to the converted, because I know you guys know your Deanston. But if Royal Lochnagar was your thing, I would recommend pretty much anything from Deanston, but certainly, well, maybe not the Kentucky Oak, but certainly look at the Virgin Oak or the 12-year-old, because they fall in around that same price, or maybe even less than the Royal Lochnagar. It makes me look at whiskies like this Royal Lochnagar and go, really, what are Diageo thinking there? Releasing a single malt. If really that distillery is only making Johnny Walker fodder, which is technically, now don't get me wrong, somebody out there will love this. So this will be somebody's whiskey. Royal Lochnagar 12-year-old will be somebody's whiskey. Every whiskey is somebody's whiskey. And I've no doubt at some point that person will watch this review and go, how could you? It's fantastic. Once again, it's only my opinion. But I believe there is better whiskey out there than this Royal Lochnagar, and there's better whiskey out there for a better price than this Royal Lochnagar. That is just my opinion. Good nose, yes, well done on that. Everything else, a bit of a letdown. So we'll leave it at that and say thank you very much for joining me. Always a pleasure. You know it. Thank you very much to my patrons. Should anybody wish to join that group, the details are in the video description below. I would like to thank those patrons very, very much. Their support is pretty much priceless to me. I'll be back next time with another 12-year-old Scottish single malt. This series ain't over yet, but it is drawing to a close. Until then, look after yourselves. Here's to your good health. Cheers.
Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.